Okay, Economic Development, you're up.
Well, you guys all know what we do. We work with pretty much all of you guys on a daily basis.
See, we want to know what you do and what you want to do.
What I want to do?
Yeah, because there are two parts to that.
I don't know, how many more staff positions you want to give me?
Well, no,
What I want to do.
I said, I forgot who I said this to. Oh, data processing. The thing is that what a department head needs to do is to tell the board what it is they need and they want to do. It's up to the board to decide the monies.
Right.
But if the board never knows that this is wrong or that is wrong, then it's very difficult for the board to make a decision.
Right.
So that's why it's important to tell the committee, you know, what it is you do and what it is you would really like to do.
Well, obviously with the planning function right now, that is on hold. The resumes are in. It does look like we have a couple pretty good candidates. One is from the county, one is not from the county, so I should be interviewing for that next week. And hopefully, I think I have a couple more weeks I have to wait yet because there was vacation time that was coming to go. So hopefully, middle of November, I hope to have that position filled. If the candidates don't pan out, you know, they potentially don't fit in. You never know through an interview process what's going to happen when you're interviewing somebody, but if they don't pan out or maybe coming back to you guys for a slight restructuring of that position. Obviously, that is the highest bargaining paid position in the bargaining group right now. So I may come back for more of a specific GIS type title. Hard to say if I'll get it.
When we had this discussion several weeks ago, I said to you then, to design a position that fits your department, you know, and your needs. If now that you're going to replace this person, so I take it that that's what's in the budget.
It is actually, and Doug, and no offense, it was kind of my fault. Doug really got into working like we used to when we had a planning, like when we had a whole separate individual planning office. If you guys recall that we're here, we actually went out and worked with each individual municipality. Well, what kind of happened with Doug, he started working with some groups in the western part of the county, started working with the town of Glen and Mohawk and found the phone bill and started doing local waterfront plans for them. Well, you know, different projects for out west, and then working with the city on various projects. So what we're going to do with the position when it does come back into place is obviously we need the GIS portion of that position, but they're going to focus more on county stuff. And we got the county ag district, we got the county hazard mitigation plan sitting out there. We have New York Rising that we're working on with the city of Amsterdam, the town of Amsterdam, and the town of Florida. And we're anticipating that actually New York Rising program off the record is going to be expanded to include the whole county. So that'll be, you know, obviously that'll be focus out of our department and us, you know, have to coordinate that with the state. So the position itself, we want to bring that back to where it's actually focused for county initiatives and not necessarily individual municipality initiatives, because that's really what we got into a lot. And it's difficult. A supervisor comes to us and asks for help. You know, you're our bosses, so it's very difficult to tell, you know, each one of you guys no. I mean, at some point in time or another, individual supervisors have come in for projects within their municipality or within their fiefdom within the city. So it's been extremely difficult to say no. But with the staff that we have, the way I foresee that position in the future, if I'm still in that capacity, you know, we're going to have to say no to some of them individual requests.
Yeah, Michael's gonna.
All right. Follow me first before everybody starts screaming. Sometimes you can use fund balance for investment, so I qualify my statement. You paid $63,000, it looks like here, to Doug. It's reduced because of however the unions work. Why don't we increase that line item and hire an engineer who can do everything? Who would help this county, he'd help Public Works, he could help everybody. He's fully capable of doing anything that a planner can do, and more. Why don't you make that investment for the entire county and get that done for the future? You're talking economic development. I don't see anything wrong with doing that. The county could use an engineer. They also can stand, they can look at plans. There's nothing that they would be restricted to. up that, hire a civil engineer or some engineer that knows what has to be done. You've got bridge problems, you've got all kinds of problems, you're talking about what you would have to do. He's fully capable of doing plans, I've worked with many engineers, and I would think that would be a better investment to do, instead of just hiring a planner. That's my opinion.
I go one step further and even suggest that we would have a separate engineering department. Because I could picture that one individual, I mean, I'm not the only office that could utilize engineers that we're outsourcing for now. That's costing us, some substantial dollars through the IDA. Paul could definitely use a couple of different engineers. So I could even see a small engineering department within a county that could take care of economic development needs, Paul, DPW needs, and every need that comes arising in the county. You got issues with these buildings here.
One-stop
You
shop.
could look into that. So I mean, that'd be an alternative. Supervisor Chair, I wouldn't have any issue with it.
I have no issue
As long
with
as they have the
myself.
GIS capabilities, which most engineers
Right.
do not.
Okay, good point.
So as far as the planning end, wrapping up the ag district stuff, we're going to concentrate more on countywide planning itself. Instead of doing a lot, we'll still help the individual municipalities for, technical assistance. We got the county planning board, obviously, so that position actually staffs the county planning board when referrals come in. They have to review it per General Municipal Law 239N. Also within the office, when there was a consolidation a couple of years ago, as we brought tourism in-house, so that's still ongoing in the office. Jackie Meal is the lead on that out of our office, and at the same time that we brought tourism in, we lost two positions through budget cuts. We actually took on more work as we were losing positions in the office, but we've restructured it. It's worked amongst everybody that's in there. And then on the economic development end, pretty much, I update you guys constantly with regards to some of the projects that are going on, some that are confidential, some that have been recently announced through the CFA process. So there's a lot going on there. We're doing a lot in the town of Mohawk, obviously, or in the town of Florida. Obviously, we have a potential project there, with project delivery in the town of Florida. We're working with Deer Run on their project. There's a couple other potential senior housing projects that we're working on in the city of Amsterdam. And there's a couple housing projects out west, actually, that we're working on now with someone from Syracuse, so we're optimistic on that, too. So there's a lot going on there as well. And then obviously the big push lately, you guys are all aware that Mike Wallace from Tennessee came out, and we have a group that's called the CEO Roundtable. Supervisor Stagliano, I think, came to the Mike Wallace presentation, and a couple other supervisors did come to that. And that's been a big push amongst some heads of the bigger, the larger companies in the two counties getting together to develop the Montgomery County Regional Business Plan, which you guys have all have copies of. I've sent it to you guys, I think, a couple of different times. And some of the main points that did come out of that was obviously promoting our area as a region. Because economically, we're a county of 50,000. They're a county of just over 50,000 as well, like 55, 56,000, and to promote the area regionally. The first step in that obviously was the Chamber of Commerce combining. But in fact, the CEO Roundtable started to talk of the regional collaborations even before the Chamber got into that. Mark Kilmer made a speech last night, and that's one thing he pointed out as well too. So I forgot how long we've been working on the regional approach. And I did send you guys an email yesterday. One of the things we are doing is looks like we're going forward with the regional branding effort. We're going to continue on with our county, separate county branding effort. But right now, Jim Moraz from Fulton County has presented the regional branding concept and the price quote with that to his Economic Development Committee and his Planning Committee. And they looked favorably on it. So it looks like that resolution is going to go forward up there. So that's something that Mike Mullis really suggested we do. Really talked about a couple of different examples of counties, and not just a couple of counties, but counties down south, where they just had landed Caterpillar, which I think created 2,000 jobs or something like that, but 5 counties within that region. And some of the counties weren't even contiguous with each other. They actually all got together, they got an intermunicipal agreement together with regards to sharing the cost for the project and the development of the project, and the tax revenue that was generated from the project, because they understood that, you know, if I'm working here in Montgomery County, I could be living in Fulton County, I'm spending my dollars there, I'm paying taxes up there. When I purchase goods up there, it's generating sales tax for Fulton County. So down south, they did it a little bit differently than they did that project. So we're taking that, we want to get back in, it's been out there a while. We want to really push the regional business park again. We want to get some work done on the regional business park. We want to see about the rail siding. I sent you guys an email last night with regards to explaining our position on that. And our thoughts are this: that project potentially, we want to be at the table. We saw it with the bypass study. You know, this board made a decision not to fund the bypass study. The bypass study is most likely going to be happening anyways. Now we're just trying to get a seat at the table. So
Without paying?
without paying, and we did have a seat at the table without paying, but the board decided not to go that route. So, you know, those types of initiatives are going to happen. They're going to happen potentially without us. We all know, you know, what could happen. That regional business park, if there's a project, if we can get a project. I mean, we want to be at the table. We want to take part in that. We want to, you know, we want to share the expenditures back, but we also want to share in the revenue. So I think we have to be an active partner with Fulton County in this going forward. The two municipalities, as far as the town of Mohawk and the city of Johnstown, there's going to be new players at the table there. So we'll see what happens at the first of the year. But if you saw my request from the email, as part of the capital plan for 2014 that you guys are going to be putting together, I'd like to obtain expenditures of $70,000 in relation to doing some preliminary wetland engineering and with regards to doing a feasibility on the short line potential for that site. In addition to that, there are options in place up there for that park now. Fulton County Center for Regional Growth has options in place. And obviously they're, you know, financially they're getting tight too, so we would be looking potentially jointly as Fulton and Montgomery County is taking over those options and retaining control of that. So I think it'd be a good partnership, it'd be a smart partnership. What we heard from Buzz throughout his meeting is the lack of large shovel-ready rail siding sites. And he has a lot of clients out there right now that are looking for sites in the Northeast with regards to that. And there's a strong potential that he may be back in the area here within 5 or 6 months to see where we're at. So that's one request that I didn't put in the budget because this all came up after the budget was presented to the budget officer. So it's something that we'd like to see allocated. As far as park development, we're pretty well set with that for right now. Obviously, depending on what kind of happens with project delivery, if something does pop there, you know, I don't know. I don't want to come to the board right now and ask for a large allocation for the park development somewhere else in the county. You know, there's a potential that it may be back early next year. You know, we just don't know. I mean, we could be out of land pretty quickly in Florida again. And I think we know where we want to focus.
Sites are getting so big, it doesn't take long to eat a lot of acres.
Especially with this project right here. So I mean, you know, I could be back to the new legislature at the beginning of the year, halfway through next year. We just don't know with these types of economic development projects. But we all know how long it takes to secure a site and to start doing all the, doing all the environmental work that's associated with it. You have to work with local municipalities because in the end, if through municipal home rule in New York State, if they don't want a project in their community, the project's not happening no matter what we do here at the county level. But, we have to invest in these types of endeavors. We're investing in education, we're investing in capital projects constantly up at FMCC over the past 15, 20 years. I think we have to invest here, and we have as a county. I mean, I got to thank the board. My predecessor has to thank the board. I mean, before I got here, the board took it upon themselves and they invested in the original Florida Park. I come to you guys, we invested in the Florida Business Park extension that paid off with Hill and Marks and retaining them there, keeping them in the county. And there's potential more investment that's coming back into that park in the near future. So that has paid off. But one that hasn't, obviously, and there's a myriad of reasons for that, but the decision to locate the park where it was, with the infrastructure capabilities that are there was the Glen Park. And, my predecessor struggled with it. I struggled with it. We had, some water sewer capacity issues there, obviously, that we're working with the village of Bonneville on. And, so, that's been the tough stuff.
That presentation that Ken's talking about was probably the best presentation I've seen on foresight and economic development and the time I've been on the board. The one statement that he made was that if you don't want to be here, why would I bring anyone to you? And which was the number one. It was the key statement that he made during the course of his presentation. Looking at a global site selector, he sort of turned some heads, I think, that and the shame is that we have not discussed things in the past. And I know I got Bill, but I didn't want to forget this. One was the bike trail, and I think until he said that 72% of the clients that he had were looking at sites with rail siding, nobody gave a thought to this bike trail that we're talking about, which is the rail siding for Fulton County. So it sort of turned the thought process around, and a good thing that the attorney showed up last night for a different reason, but it was a good thing that he happened to, because now it's on at least we didn't take action on it, and it brings it forward. There's been criticisms of the branding, and actually, if you had been there at the presentation, when he's saying to you, separate yourself from the Capital District, have your own identity. We've been struggling with an identity for years, so to bring someone in from the outside, to me, is the best thing that happened. I had an Army buddy who lived in Queens, who never saw the Statue of Liberty because he thought I could see it anytime. It's the same thing with site selectors. I mean, and branding. We're sitting here, we're all looking at Montgomery and Fulton County much differently than somebody else would look at these two counties. So I think those were positive steps that were taken. Bill, you had
Can I back up a little bit, Ken, and back to the planning? First of all, I want to thank you, and Doug was a very valuable person to the town of Florida, and I'm thinking of some of the other towns that aren't here tonight. But have you ever thought, remember the old idea they used where you had your planning department and you were charging the respective communities that used them a fee to use those? I know it didn't work out very well.
Wow.
But have you ever thought about something like that being back into place? Because I can't tell you. Every year, there's more and more work being put upon us by the state that is above our level. So either we have to go out the towns and hire an engineer to represent us, or we come to him. I would much rather pay and keep it in the county and have somebody on staff to do it.
But before, just let me, before Ken, there was a person who sat in your seat, and
I remember
that person was from the city, and what happened was we passed a resolution that planning was not to charge the municipalities for the work that was done, and matter of fact, we reimbursed the municipalities for the work they had paid for.
It's not to say you couldn't go down the same road.
No, I'm just saying you'd sort of have to rescind that resolution so that he has the authority to go and do what needs to be done.
The reason I bring it up is because he's obviously down a person now and he's rethinking it. And when I hear him say, and I know I won't be here next year, but he's saying he's going to have to turn away certain people in certain towns at different times, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. From our town, I think it'll be a tough pill, and others in this room as well. So if there's any way you can make that work.
I mean, we can make it, and you're right, Supervisor Strebe, we have thought about it, discussion has arisen, but as Supervisor Stagliano said, I was here during all that, and we sat there and we built up a pretty good program when we worked with everybody.
I remember the stories.
For everybody, and then Supervisor Stagliano said it, it kind of turned into politics. The city wanted something, and the supervisor got a resolution with enough support from this board to say do it for the city for free. Another resolution the next month came up, basically reimbursing 8 years worth of revenue that we generated from that program and distribute it back to the towns. So,
Can
yeah,
it be
that would
another-
be a great idea.
Ken Jerry was the one that got the money back.
Can there be another that was Okiwari Park days, right?
No, that 2002, that Jim.
Can another method be utilized? That's, I guess what I'm.
Agreed,
The
it
procedures
should
are
be.
in place. I mean, it's all, the mechanism's in place, it's a matter of the board sticking with the process.
If you pay printing for envelopes, you might as well pay, for them for planning. We're charging for IT services, we're charging for other services, we're footing the bill here,
Write the resolution.
and not everyone benefits by.
I would use the same argument for what Mike, his statement earlier with an engineering department. There's times we need an engineer. There's times this guy, you, and that guy needs an engineer. If we got one out here we can
Let's do
utilize
it.
and pay for, everybody wins.
Let's do it.
It's not a lose-lose, it's a win-win.
Can you write the, excuse me, to interrupt, can you write the
No, no.
resolution and do what he's saying?
It wouldn't be a problem if you guys want to act on it before the first of the year, I have no issue with it at all.
I've seen Doug Green buried in work, and I come in with something else for him, I feel bad.
Yeah.
And I would really like to see a planning department that could handle issues that are going on. I mean, we're all talking about all these ideas, they all take planning and they take somebody to disseminate the facts to the outlying villages and towns. And he's always been that person, him and Ken.
Well, the thing was, that Ken came from a planning department that we did once had, and the board did away with planning. The thing was, a planner was brought back. After planning department was gone, for several years, the planner was brought back. So, there has to be some uniformity here and some consistency within what the board of supervisors and the future legislature does.
Fine.
5? Is it 5? Yeah, maybe there was 5.
All I ask, Chair, is that you try to give it some thought while you're forming this Ken's department again, planning. See if you can make it work for everybody instead of just for the county itself.
See, Bill, those are all good ideas. There was a good idea talking about the engineering. But those are the things that we should have been discussing rather than having committee meetings 5 minutes apart.
The problem with everybody going and getting a different planner or a different engineer, they're not familiar with the situation. Doug was familiar with the county. And that's what, every time somebody from the state called me, or Department of State, or FEMA, we always tried to work it through Doug and then let it go out from that office to the towns and the villages. And it worked very well, I thought. I mean, the poor guy was working his tail off, I know that. It only makes good logistical sense to have the county, the key person at the county,
Or 2.
or more.
I mean, it's a discussion, I mean, you guys are the policymakers, you guys hold the key to the budget, it's a discussion you guys
I
have
would
to
do it.
take some
No
of our
problem with me.
supervisor chair said with the engineering and expand a little bit. It'll help all the municipalities in the long run as far as costs at their individual municipalities. I'm sure each of your towns could at some point in time use an engineer.
I get a tax bill, I get an election bill, I get all kinds of bills from the county. One more bill wouldn't bother us a bit. You know what I mean? I know I do.
We also get a revenue that is very substantial that most of us don't get.
Well, I'm not thinking it's gonna be huge, because it's gonna cost me more if I go out as an individual town and hire a person, whereas if they're on the payroll and it's split up amongst us, how bad can it be?
Why can't you charge by municipality?
That's what I'm saying, either that
No, you
or
didn't say
by
that.
the
You said
job,
split it up among all
that
of
could
us.
be problematic. Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy.
Well, I think, Supervisor Sweet says it all the time. This is the county. If we had the engineer here and everybody could use it, and there was no charge back to the municipalities, you're paying for it through your county tax bill. I think what he says a lot, and I don't disagree, is when you do the charge back, you're just passing the money around. I don't disagree, I agree with Bill that I would be well worth the money to do it. But then becomes the fight with, especially whether it's the new legislature or what always used to be the town supervisors in the city. So the persons that are paying for it are the property owners regardless. They're either doing it through that town tax bill, village tax bill, city tax bill, or county tax bill. And I think that's a lot of what Brian says often is,
Yeah, but it all boils back down, if you've got a cost, and you don't have this offsetting revenue, then you're always bucking your head up against that 2% tax cap.
always.
You know what I mean? So we can say that we want to centralize within the county. The problem is, we can't take on more services because we can barely keep our heads above water now. So, but they're all good ideas, but you have to have offsetting revenues. And I think that Bill's point I mean, obviously, there's an amount that the town of Florida uses every year. You know,
I have an engineering line, it's not great,
Well,
but
what you're saying, Bill, I mean, if I understand you correctly, okay, and I have to disagree with Tom for this point. If you have to spend $100,000 just to throw a number out for an engineer over the course of a whole year, it's going outside the county, correct?
well, there's a good chance that's gonna happen.
Right? It's going outside the county.
Where's his?
Basically,
This is
what
going
you're
outside the
saying.
county, and he does spend a good amount.
But what I'm saying is if you did have the engineer, which is fine, we talked about this a few years ago. But if you had to spend $100,000, I'd rather see you give it back to the county. It's not costing the taxpayer any more money because he's paying it anyway, but it's going south instead of here in Montgomery County. So now he's gonna have a profit center.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you, I agree with that.
Okay, if he has a profit center, and if it's done right, he's gonna generate more revenue than what it's costing for that department. But if you do it like, and this is no offense to Dan Cologne, because I think he's great, and he does a great job, he's just gotta up his prices. If he's just trying to do it to break out even and pay for the department, I disagree. If it becomes a profit center, because you gotta pay that money anyway, or the city's gotta pay that money, yes, I agree. But to give it away and try to come up with a number and say, okay, guys, look it, we got a department that costs us $200,000, and his hourly rate now is like $30 an hour or something. No, I mean, that's crazy, and it's stupid. But if we do it and charge the right amount of money that an engineer, maybe not the same thing as
Right.
an engineer,
Yeah.
okay? But you don't give away the store because you got them on board, okay? If they charge $100 an hour, which we're very accustomed to paying these contractual expenses, if they charge 75, you're saving $1, okay? And we're making $1. I agree with that concept.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
My argument is toward planning, but you certainly could utilize it toward engineering as well.
Thanks, Jim.
okay,
Pays for
thank you.
itself.
We got any more questions? You got any
That's
got any
it.
more questions for Ken?
Unless you want to allocate more dollars, capital plan for park development.
I'd write you a big check if I could.
No, I mean, there are major discussions that need to come up.
They have to with the new legislature.
You know what I mean?
New executive.
And so, if you look at your CEO report, the roundtable, and you're looking at that you're running out of lands. If you go to the presentation, and he says, you really need to have 250 acres each. Where does that come from? So the thing is, those discussions need to come, and that was a very good presentation up there that that I listened to for 50 minutes probably, I think it was, and nonstop.
East End.
And just one fact after another.
We got an east end, we got rail.
Lower Mills,
Yes, we do.
flat.
Well, as a matter of fact, if I could, this gentleman came into my office, 7, 8 years ago, and said that you'd like to do something down the east end to help the city, remember, with Lower Mills?
Yeah. well,
Because
that's
we
why
do
I'm
have
gonna-
rail spurs down there. We also we got building 8A, 8B, and AC, which is the old rail building. But nobody goes down there because there may be grass growing over, nobody pays attention. We have rail line. Matter of fact, I had gotten years ago the railroad to sell us all the abutting property all the way on Front Street, all the way down, and then we got thrown off the board and they forgot about it, and it took years to do that. But there's potential. If you look down with the aerial photographs,
Huge potential.
you can see more than you can see if you look this way. If you look down, you say, wow, I didn't realize that there was these woods we could move and do this. There's land. There's all kinds of potential. The thing is, I think for the next board, the 9 people, whomever, we should give at least a little bit of initiative to say we're going to do something. I agree with these ideas that are being put forward. bring it to the full board, write a resolution. If they vote it down, we at least tried. I've got no problem with taking money out of, and you know how I feel about taxes, but I think that's an investment you use with the extra money you have in the fund balance. You probably disagree with me, but I think over a period of years, an engineering, planning department together is gonna, if you're talking regional development, everything, we should be initiating this now. Otherwise, you're gonna be where you always were. You're gonna be in the caboose.
But a lot of these discussions really need to be taken at the local town of Mohawk level. If the town of Mohawk isn't really interested in development, then we're chasing our tails
No, we're
there.
not, because,
You know what I mean? I mean, town of Florida, it took,
and we all know that there's one way that can happen without that. So I think we have to get on the boat, partner with Fulton County, and get this done and drive it as a county, because it can happen without the town of Mohawk.
you know, town of Florida, we
all know what the big word is there.
town of
Yeah,
Florida,
we
we
know.
struggled
Yeah, I
for
know what it is.
a number of years in litigation. Town of Florida did, paid the cost for litigation. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it's
he tied it
51,
up forever.
it's basically 5149 who wants economic development in the town of Florida, you know? So we need to have the municipalities on
Does
board.
they start with an A?
Okay, anybody got anything else? If not, is there a motion to
Most to adjourn.
adjourn? Bill?
They just put it in-
Mike? All in favor?